Hello, welcome to Ray-ality TV. I'm Raymond Bakari. Today I'm joined by 2022 Democratic candidate for General Treasurer and former Mayor of Central Falls, James Diossa. Mayor Diossa, how are you today?
Doing well, Ray. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thanks for coming on. It's great to have you on. You're now running for Treasurer of Rhode Island. The office has no incumbent as Treasurer Magazine or is term limited. Why do you want to be the next treasurer?
Look, my journey into politics is very different from many. You know, my family, specifically my dad, came over from Medellin, Colombia in the early 80s when times were really tough in Colombia with drug cartels, violence, political corruption. And he made the journey to the United States because he knew that he could have a family here and really aspire to the American dream. And fortunate enough for him, he was able to move to Rhode Island, specifically Central Falls, had me and my brothers with my mom, and build what essentially is the American dream: buy a house, be able to provide a good education for their children. And that's exactly what I experienced. I graduated from public schools in Central Falls, went on to college, and during college is where I got the spark of wanting to run for political office. It was 2008 when then Senator Barack Obama was running for president, and was truly captivated by his speeches. And also, I felt he was talking directly to me and asking me that I needed to get involved, go back into your community and make a difference. And shortly after I graduated college, I interned for U.S. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse here in Providence, and part of our daily task was to cut out newspaper articles related to the senator. And I came across an article that said that Central Falls elections were opening up in Central Falls. And so I decided to run for city council, won by 17 votes. And that was a true transition in my life, being 23 years old, now being a public official, understanding that I lived in a very diverse community like Central Falls, where people come from many parts of Central South America, where corruption is rampant. And I knew that I had the opportunity to engage people differently and make them believe again in government here in Central Falls. And during that time on the city council, the city had filed for state receivership, bankruptcy. My predecessor was indicted on corruption charges, which then opened up the seat. I ran for mayor, and I think many of you know about the turnaround that really happened in Central Falls. And uniquely to this office is because I've been able to work very closely with then Treasurer Raimundo and now Treasurer Magaziner on things that I believe make a true difference. One being the pensions. When I was mayor, we worked with the Treasurer Magaziner to move our pensions into a more secure, sustainable, well-managed system, which is the MERS system of the state. We also started conversations with the treasurer about building a new high school and how he can help us look at different options like bonds to be able to make that a reality. And fortunately for us, Mayor Rivera, my successor, has been able to carry that project over the finish line. And as a mayor, we all love infrastructure projects. So working with the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank, we were able to get some dollars there for some projects here in Central Falls. And I want to be able to continue doing that as treasurer of Rhode Island.
Throughout the past year, it was believed that you were going to seek the office of lieutenant governor. You were even one of the finalists when Governor McKee had to pick his successor. I even heard the buzz that you were looking at Secretary of State at one point. Was it always treasurer that you were going to run for in 2022?
So when the whole situation happened with the lieutenant governor, obviously, as you mentioned, I was perceived as one of the top candidates, and happy that he picked Sabina Matos, who's a strong woman and really a good advocate for not only her community, but also for all Rhode Islanders. And having her on the same team with McKee has been very positive on both ends. And so after that all happened, I decided to take some downtime. I have 2-year-old daughter, and so I spent some time and really reflected about what was next in my life politically, and I didn't think that seeking higher office was going to happen immediately, but I still feel within my heart that I can give back so much more. And not only that, through the treasurer's office, I could work effectively with cities and towns across the state and improve everyone's lives. And not only just focusing on the most important thing, which is the pensions, but all these projects I mentioned briefly could make a very big impact on our cities and towns across Rhode Island. And my experience working with the legislature, working with other mayors, working with governor, I think that aside from my role of managing what's within the department of the treasurer's office, but also working collaboratively and sharing ideas with other stakeholders who play a role in making a difference and being part of a collaborative team, so that we're all moving in a good direction to make our state better.
And the race itself for treasurer is interesting. Currently, you're the only declared candidate, to my knowledge, at the time of this filming. We are filming this on Thursday, the 28th of April. The only primary opponent you're expected to have is Commerce Secretary Stephen Pryor. Are you surprised that there aren't that many other candidates running for the office?
Look, I don't like to speculate or take guesses about who's going to jump in or not. What I know today is I'm the only declared candidate. I have a great team behind me who's helping me get my message out through all Rhode Island. I'm focused on ensuring that I can cross the finish line in September and hopefully November, and be able to be a good treasurer to build upon what Treasurer Magazine has done.
Moving on to pensions, you talked about it a bit in a few of the prior answers. The pension system in Providence is a top issue that not only concerns the city, but also the state, because the belief is if the capital city goes, then so does the state. This is a complicated issue. Currently, the mayor of Providence is proposing a $500 million pension obligation bond, while interest rates are low and voters are expected to vote on that in June. Personally, what would you recommend as an option to solve the issue of the pension system? Because it's not only going to just be one solution.
Absolutely, and I know very well the impact on pensions. It's one of the reasons why Central Falls filed for bankruptcy. It was also a devastating time for pensioners in the Central Falls system, because our police and fire was slashed 50% of what they had built their whole lives around for retirement. So I know all too well the impact and the challenges of a pension system. And being a former mayor, I definitely see what the mayor is trying to do in Providence, trying to be as creative as possible to try to solve a very tough issue that unfortunately others have chosen to kick the can down the road. And what I'm looking forward to is, first, seeing what the Providence voters will like to do, as you said, in June when they vote. And two is looking at the details of what the proposal will be then, because as you said, interest rates could change, and that can make a big difference. And so we're going to hold off and see and wait to see what the market has once they go out to the market.
Do you personally support the pension obligation bond proposal the mayor's proposing?
Look, like I said, pensions are a challenge to many communities, and what I say is, there's an appreciation being a former mayor, seeing other mayors trying to tackle this issue. My position right now is I really want to see what the Providence voters have to say, and two is look at the details once this is presented officially.
One outside of the box idea that's been talked about multiple times throughout the history of this being an issue is getting more revenue for the city, particularly from the private colleges that don't pay any property taxes. Currently, there are two House bills, 7956 and 7813. One would allow the city of Providence to tax property tax on these colleges that don't pay any, and then the other taxes their endowment at 2%, and that money would strictly be earmarked for public schools. And then Senate Bill 2600 is also doing the same thing as the property tax bill in the House. I know you're currently working in the policy as a senior advisor in the policy lab at Brown. So I'm just interested to hear your opinion on those bills, since they could bring in money to pay down that issue of the pension system. Would you support those kind of bills?
Look, I think anything that helps. I think you have to explore. You have to have conversations. I've my contract with Brown has since ended as of 2 weeks ago, and so now I'm fully committed to the campaign. No, look, I know how challenging it is to be mayor, and whatever tools in the toolbox you can use to bring more people around the table and create a consensus that those who can and should be contributing and helping in any way possible in areas of education and specifically the pension. So absolutely, I'm very open-minded and understand how important this is, and it's a conversation for the next mayor to have, and they're going to have to bring everyone around the table, because these are two big issues that will continue with the next mayor.
And another bit of news in Providence that was recently, there's a proposal for renovating the Superman building that was recently introduced. The plan is to put a bunch of apartments in there. Some money will come from the state, some is supposed to come from the city. Do you have any thoughts on those plans for the Superman building?
Look, I give huge praise to Governor McKee and Mayor Lorza, both who worked strongly to get this deal done. I think that many of us who travel to Providence are overwhelmed by the beautiful architect of that building, and to see it light up again with activity, I think it brings joy to everyone. So I give both praise to the mayor and the governor, because they're the two ones who really spearheaded this and to get it done. I think that the overall conversation is, again, this is just one project, but my role as treasurer will be to focus my voice around affordable housing, being that I have a seat at the Rhode Island Housing Board. And so I'm going to continue sharing my experience in Central Falls and how important affordable housing is, and advocating so that more gets done in our state. But luckily, we have leadership now that truly understands it, with Speaker Chikachi, Senate President Ruggiero, the governor, Lieutenant Governor Matos, that they're all moving in the direction that we got to build more housing, and they're doing that. So I want to be part of that chorus when I get there.
Speaking of housing, that's also one of the ideas that a lot of lawmakers want the rest of the ARPA money to be spent on. Do you have any specific recommendations on how the state should spend the rest of the federal money that came in?
I think that more importantly is my advice is that they bring in the mayors and town managers and administrators and explore different ideas. Again, being the mayor, you're at the forefront of every issue, and we've seen that throughout the pandemic. We know what works and doesn't work in our communities, and it's important. I think it's an important asset for legislators to have these leaders around the table to make these types of decisions. Your point, absolutely. Housing, I think education, social services, health services, all of that is important. Job development is critical. Workforce development, I should say. I think those are areas that I think the ARPA money would be fundamental in changing the course of these hard-hit communities like Central Falls. But it's a one in a lifetime opportunity to spend an incredible amount of money, and so it's always appreciate the thoughtfulness of everyone taking the time to make sure they get it right.
The current treasurer, Treasurer Magaziner, did a lot during his 8 years as, well, technically 7.5 years right now as a treasurer. One of the things that he did was introduce the BankLocal initiative. I'm curious to know, where do you stand on that initiative that he had introduced?
Absolutely, I support it. I know how important that's been. I think that getting people to BankLocal is critical, and I know many of the people who played a role in getting that done, and so absolutely, I will continue supporting that.
The back to basics investment policy is also seeing gains for the state. 2021 saw a gain of $2.2 billion, I should say. Now the assets are at 10.3 billion. Last time I had checked. What kind of policies would a Treasurer Diossa administration bring to continue that growth?
Yeah, no, this is a very good question. I think that Treasure Magazine there has done an incredible job. I want to continue building on the professionalism, the transparency, and the honesty that his government has instituted in that office. And, his back to basics plan has worked extremely well. My job will be, once I get into office, is to revisit all those policies and look at where we are at the time. Hopefully we still have a strong economy, and build upon what he has done. And so my focus is, again, continue professionalizing the office, continue putting the right people around me to make the best decisions, and more importantly, ensuring that people's taxpayer money is being invested appropriately, and that the retirees feel comfortable, confident, and safe that they're getting the right returns for their dollars. And so my job will continue on that, and I will expand upon what he's done. And also, like I said, once I get into that office, I will do a top-down review, although I have several conversations with the treasurer, and so I'm pretty familiar with his operations, but I like to make my own assessment once I get there, if I get there.
Looking at a tax that comes under scrutiny in the state, the infamous car tax is on its way to fully phasing out. There's about 1 to 2 years left from what most lawmakers have said whenever I ask. Would you advocate as treasurer for the car tax to be fully phased out once and for all?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as mayor, I was a strong supporter of that. People at the local level hate that tax, especially the value of their cars or what they're getting taxed at. So it's a difficult, terrible tax. And I think getting rid of it is a good thing for our cities and towns across the state. So I continue supporting the total phase out.
My final question takes a step away from politics. It's one that I like to ask everybody on the show to keep tradition, and that is, in your opinion, what do you think Rhode Island is best known for?
I think the fact that we're such a welcoming state, built by immigrants. I think that its greatest asset is the people. Many will say the calamari, the beaches, but I think truly it's the people of Rhode Island that make the state great.
Absolutely, and there's a lot of small communities built within Rhode Island. We have, big Italian community, Armenian community, Hispanic community, just very welcoming people, and it always feels like one big family in the state. So I agree with you on that. Mayor Diossa, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure of mine to have you on.
Likewise, thank you very much for having me.
And thank you for watching this episode of Ray-ality TV. If you want to see future episodes as soon as they're posted on this channel, please click the subscribe button down below and the post notification bell icon to the right of it. I'm Raymond Bakari, and I'll see you on the next episode.